this is not about like protecting anyone. This is literally about like wanting to eradicate trans people. You know what bathroom laws, for example, do? We know that trans people are 4 times more likely to be the victim of abuse. Bathroom laws are not about like protecting anyone. It's just to make us targets. We've also got them proudly boasting they want to eradicate transgenderism. Yeah, when these people talk about transgenderism, trans ideology, they talk about eradicating trans people. That's what they're doing. And they're just like putting like a target on our backs. And they're not only hurting like trans adults, they're going after trans children. The thing is like, okay, so trans people are 4 times more likely to be the victim of assault. Trans people, they know the law, they are law-abiding citizens, and their bathroom bans. You look like a woman, you are forced into the men's restroom. People are so hysterical. They realize, oh, you must be a trans person, and they're going to assault you. Sometimes trans people die because of it. And this is what their agenda is. Like, they're not here to protect, they're just pushing this ideology in order to hurt us. They simply do not care about the stats and the science. Yeah, they don't care. They want us to stop existing. They don't want us to be ourselves. They hate us because we're different and we are challenging their worldviews, you know? Right-wingers are not about protecting anything. The only thing they want to protect is men are the superior gender, straight is the only way, white is the superior race. It's like, that's what they want to cling on to. And anything that proves them wrong, anything that shows them that men and women aren't that much different and men and women are equal, the man can be a woman. It makes them violent. Facts, what are these? It just hurts my feelings. I need to be against it. We know all these things and we know how beneficial gender-affirming care for us is. And like, cis people can still access puberty blockers. Cis people can still get gender-affirming care. It's just us who gets it denied. And they're against puberty blockers because like, the thing is, if you can't tell trans people apart, then their whole rhetoric of like, oh, trans people are these men in dresses and like, we can always tell, like it all falls apart when you realize what transitioning, what HRT actually does and how beneficial puberty blockers are and how most of the changes between men and women only come into effect once you go through puberty. Just jealous because we slay. Most of the right-wingers, most of the Republicans, most of the anti-trans people, we know what categories they watch on Orange YouTube. We know what they watch there. We know how they're chasers. We also know that they hate women and they treat trans women publicly, how they also treat women privately. Like, we know that. Most of the people who hate trans women hate women in general. And they're abusers and they just feel more confident with being publicly transphobic and like hateful towards us. Like, the comments that I get is like, you'll never be a woman, then why do you treat me like one? Why do you send me DMs like, your body, my choice? Why do you treat me like a woman if I'm not a woman? Why do you tell me that I will never be loved? I will never amount to anything. I'm not ready enough. I'm not able to give birth and all these things. Like, these people say that to cis women too. Like, we see that happening. It's just so wild. If you want to protect women, then why are you a threat to women? Why do you preach about like not wanting women to have bodily autonomy, not wanting women to be in certain fields like workplaces and stuff? We see what you're doing. We see what your agenda is. We see what you're pushing. Just because you say that you only hate trans women because they are a danger to women, to real women, to biological women, then why do you post about things like your body, my choice and all these things? They brought the Grindr server down on the right-wing Congress. Yeah, most of the people are scared to admit that they're gay. Why do they think like being trans is like a kink and like all these things? It's because like they are watching trans corn on Orange YouTube. People actually notice with me since I was a kid that I was more feminine. The thing is like with like masculinity and femininity, it is socially constructed. There's nothing biological about like what we perceive as femininity and what we perceive as masculinity. There's cis women who are more masculine than I am. There are also more cis guys who are more feminine than I am. It's not just black and white. These people just hate femininity and like just don't want to admit that. And anything that doesn't fit into their worldview is just going to become a victim of their abuse. The Supreme Court made marriage legal for everyone, which protects gay marriage. Like, they had to find a new target. We know all these things. History is going to keep repeating itself until people learn, but people never actually learn. Because in order to learn, you need the education. Right needed a target because if they don't have one, they have nothing. Divide and conquer. That's their whole strategy. Nobody cared about trans people existing for the past couple of decades. Nobody cared that trans women were able to compete in women's sports because most of the things, most of the rules that we have in place have have been in place for a really long time. When states have like these laws of like biological sex matters when competing in sports, you know, most of the time it only affects like one or two like trans girls who just want to play with their friends. For a lot of people, sports is like a social thing. Trans people fight so hard to just be a part of society, and they just want to gatekeep us, make us out to be like this other species that's just like a threat and like a danger and like predatory, and it just affects like innocent children who just want to live. And that is wild to me. It's like scary. Masculinity is a prison, and they can't stand the thought of people escaping. Yeah, because they don't want people to be happy. Like, if people realize that men can be feminine too, and they don't have to be like masculine, and like femininity doesn't mean that you're gay, you're like unappealing, and if they acknowledge that, then you can't suppress women. If it's an insult to men to be called a woman, that means they view women as inferior. We live in a patriarchal society where men make the rules for women, and I wish we would live in a world where women had the same rights as men, because if we had equality, then that would mean that being a woman isn't an insult to men, or like femininity isn't an insult to men anymore, and then people could like start being themselves.